Hi everybody, all my followers, be welcome to another video. Right, the video today on this 2010 Golf GTI. This particular car has featured the channel a couple times. I think it did. Anyway, the last time was on this video, and no, that's still going strong. That was a few months ago when I did that. Yeah, a long time ago. Anyway, this time the car came for something else. I will show you in a second. And I really need to get rid of some cars because my driveway is literally full of them. Right, so let me show you what is wrong with this and tell you a little bit of the story. So the guy is a colleague of mine that works in the same place as I do, and he was working nights last night. He was driving to work when the car failed. He rang me saying the car was looked like misfiring, was still drivable, and he asked me, he was not too far away from here, and he asked me if he could come quickly to scan the car. Obviously, up on scanning the car, actually I've asked him over the phone if he tried to restart the car, turn it off, turn it back on. He said he did that a couple of times. He came back with the same problem. So he came around, I plugged in the maxi sys quickly, and I'll show you exactly what the car is saying. And indeed, he was misfiring. And then because he had to go to work, he had to ask someone to come and pick him up and drop him at work, and he asked me if he could leave the car here. Obviously I have plenty of cars here at the moment, but being who he is, I just figured, okay, I'll do my best to try to help you out. So with no further ado, let's gonna get everything set up and going, and I will show you exactly what the car is saying he's not happy with. Okay, and I figured that rather than just go, well, we might do that just to check some live data, but I just figured that we'll go quickly here where we did the scan, where I did the scan last night, and you're gonna see in there, engine control module, there's 4 faults. What? Well, come on, where is... Unless it was because I've cleared the faults after that. But I didn't start the car again. Okay, so we're not going to be able to do this. Okay, let's going to start the engine. Where's the key? And... Oh. It's definitely misfiring. You can't probably hear it. I'll show you. Obviously this is the cold start, so it's a little bit more, it is a little bit more noticeable, but it's definitely misfiring. So we're gonna go, I've cleared the codes and I never restart the engine last night because I said to him straight away the codes, well, we'll start the car quickly, but everything just started again. So I don't know why the report, really? Come on. You are misfiring, baby. I know you are. You can't deny it. So basically was a random misfiring, cylinder 1 misfiring, cylinder 3 misfiring, and cylinder inhibit or something along those lines due to misfirings or something like that. So let's gonna go look for my misfiring counting. There it is. Unless it's because it's still cold, and as you can see in there, misfiring recognition is disabled. That's why he hasn't detected any misfirings yet. Okay, He will come up with the misfirings, I can guarantee you. As soon as there we go, look at that. So the misfiring is now enabled, and as you can see, is my number one primarily. That's misfiring. Okay, so he was coming up with misfiring on number 3 as well. Where was the other? There was still lots of it doesn't really matter, to be fair with you, but okay, so now we should have the misfiring code. I will just try to show you that. There we go. So misfiring cylinder 1, maybe because he was driving, and then obviously the imbalance of the engine started to trigger codes on number 3, which I'm gonna guess is gonna be the opposite cylinder on the firing sequence. But let's gonna go quickly again in there. Just make sure it's only one cylinder. If it's just one cylinder, it is slightly better. It is 100% slightly better, because yeah, I'll show you why all of that is. All those dingles on the cluster, all the lights, I'll show that in a second. So obviously the misfire restarts every time the engine goes, I don't know how many, maybe 1,000 revolutions probably every minute or whatever. So I don't know why he's paused at the moment. It shouldn't be paused. So you can see that in there was completely different, the knocking sensor. So obviously the voltage is lower because there's no combustion on that cylinder. So the knock sensor is not generating the voltage because there's no. But they are all the same. Something's not right here. Looks like the live data is frozen or something like that. What the heck's going on? Let me do something here quickly. Let me go back into the engine ECU. In the meantime, I'll show you. So actually things have just changed, which is strange. So initially we had let me actually turn it off and back on, because we had a engine light flashing. So the complaint yesterday when the guy rang me said as well that the ESP light came on, but that obviously makes sense. Why is not? We'll wait a few seconds or a couple minutes to show you again. So you've seen the EPC light was on, electronic power control or electronic whatever that is, but just before that the engine light was flashing with the EPC light also on. As you've seen, in the meantime the engine light was off. Let's gonna go back to my trouble codes. No lights yet. There we go. So hide cylinder. So obviously he's hiding. Hide cylinder basically means he's deactivating the cylinder, so he stops trying to inject any fuel or do anything with it, because obviously he's just going to wash the cylinder if he's not making any combustion. Let's gonna go back to live data. I want to see the live data again. I don't know why the live data paused in that. Oh, there we go. So it starts like that, engine light flashing. Okay, and later on it comes up with EPC. I'll try to show you what happens next. Okay, so that's going again. So we have, okay, so the cylinder 3 might be because the guy who was driving it, and obviously the imbalance of the engine, etc. He might made cylinder 3 to start misfiring as well. But we can see here with no questions asked, cylinder number 1 is misfiring. Now we're going to go, and we can also see that as well. We're going to be able to see if this is reading correctly now. So there we go. Now get this beep, engine fault, visit workshop. So EPC light comes on and engine light continues to flash, and I think next engine light will extinguish. As you have seen, engine light goes off and it stays only with EPC. As you can see there as well, my knock sensor 091. This live data is kind of pausing for some reason, but then that one obviously is 0.5, which is the lowest, is not detecting, sorry guys, cylinder 1 is not detecting anything, while the other ones kind of are. So there's no point to carry on going through this. There we go. So light stops and it stays just with that one. So there we go. So cylinder 1, let's gonna turn these off and let's gonna get under the bonnet. Okay, and we're not going to be here try to reinvent the wheel. There is only a few things that can go wrong for a misfiring like this to happen. As you've seen, the misfiring is not like every now and then, it's quite continuously. So something like that pretty much rules out a compression problem. It can be a compression problem, but the compression would have to be extremely bad. Usually compression problems, the misfiring is not that continuously. As you've seen on the counter, it's pretty much is a continuously, it just goes no stop. So I'm going to put a compression issue out of the equation for now. So what can it be wrong? We can have a spark plug, we can have the coil, we can have a wiring issue, fuses. I don't think this will have a dedicated fuse for each coil, which to me means if a fuse was gone, usually there is a fuse to power all the coils, so the car would just not start. So again, spark plugs, coil, wiring, a fuse possibly, and ultimately the ECU. So obviously we're not gonna start by the ECU. That would be a really silly call. So we're gonna start with the basics, and I think guys, you guys know exactly what we're gonna do first. So okay, so everything is sitting properly. There's a wire there. That's gonna do what I call a visual inspection to start with. So everything looks plugged in. Okay, so this coil and this coil actually, they look slightly different. Okay, so first thing, which one is cylinder 1? I'm gonna guess cylinder 1 is gonna be this one here. Is it gonna be this one? Most likely yes. So anyway, what I'm gonna do, quite simple guys, I'm gonna move these two coils. Okay, cylinder 1 is gonna be either this one or either this one, unless that was the firing order. I don't think it is, but it's gonna be either this one or this one. So if I swap these coils and my fault moves across, then we know exactly where our problem is. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna quickly swap these coils and see what happens to our misfiring. Or maybe cylinder 1 is going to be the one on the gearbox, because that's where the aftermarket coil is. As you can see, it doesn't mean nothing obviously, but just a thought. Okay, and that coil has been replaced. Not replaced, sorry, has been swapped around. And now let's go inside the car, start it up, and see where my misfiring is this time. If he's still in the same place or if he moved. So let's start the thingy. Back, live data. Okay, moment of the truth. Oh, he's not enabled yet. It's gonna wait. It is gonna be on number 1 still. It's definitely still misfiring. You can feel the engine. You can feel the engine. 100% is still misfiring. We don't have any lights on the dash yet, but I'm guessing it's going to be very shortly. There we go. Haha! Boom! Cylinder number 4 this time. Okay. So now we're still begging the question. So if it's cylinder number 1, so let's gonna do. So okay, so right. So is cylinder number 1 the one on the right or on the left? Gearbox side or the other side? I think I'm gonna find out very quickly, but I think is the one. I think cylinder number 1 is the one on the driver's side, or the one as you face the engine. I think is the one on the left, which means that in that case it's actually the VAG coil that failed. But let's just double check that. Okay guys, and the way I'm going to do it, so I think is this coil that failed. I think this is number 4. So the way I'm going to do it, guys, is I'm just going to I hate these things. Because you always think like you're going to break them. Okay, so I think it's this one. What I'm going to do is bring that one back in. So we're going to run the engine without that coil, basically, and just confirm that indeed now number 4, and that is the coil, that one in there, that's the coil that failed. As you can see, this was a VAG coil, it was original coil. The other one was the aftermarket. But let's kind of start it up and see what happens. Okay, and as you can see, the engine is not running any worse. So if that was number 1, that means the engine would be running on 2 cylinders only, would be running way worse than this, if running at all. So that to me means straight away that we are indeed in the right track. We're just gonna confirm that we still have misfires only on number 4. Let it to enable. but it's going to have to be, because again, if that was cylinder number 1, that means number 4 would be misfiring and number 1 would be misfiring. Well, was no coil in there, so I hope it makes sense what I'm saying. There we go, it's still on number 4 because there's no coil in there at all. So that's all I need is a coil. Now when by the time this video comes out, you most likely will know already about that car. When I bought that car, that's a 1.8. I don't know if the coils are the same, but the guy gave me a bunch of parts, so I'm gonna see if the coils I have are the same for this car. If they're not, we're gonna go quickly get a coil, install it, and hopefully this will be problem solved. Okay, and 28 pounds later and 34 pennies, we do have a new coil. Okay, now for you guys that follow the channel, and for you guys that might gonna be thinking, wait, I thought you don't get any parts. Right, one, this guy is a good friend, so I know him quite well. Second, the guy just left nights this morning, so most likely he's gonna be asleep. Third, it's Friday today. I'm sure the guy's going to be really happy that I'm going to give him the car before the weekend, even because yesterday when we dropped it, I told him that I would have, you might have seen, the Mercedes and this BMW first before I touch his car. So I think it's going to be, so he was already expecting probably for next week at some point. I think the guy's going to be really happy that I'm going to give him the car back today. So and obviously, again, you need to know, or I know who I'm dealing with. So, hey, there we go. Let me fetch that paper. Maybe a little bit windy today. So, let's kind of push this thing down the hole. Yeah, it's clipped in. I'm that confident that we're going to put the engine cover back on. That's it. Take my tools away. And let's gonna give it a go. See what happens. Let me get through there. Right. It's gonna start. Oh, I have the phone charging, the cable. Oh man, what a mess. Okay, so let's gonna start this thing and see what happens. And he's driving perfect. He's running perfect. Obviously we have the codes on the engine. He's not misfiring anymore, 100%. Let's just come out of this ECU. Go back in again. Yeah, it's running perfect now. It's gonna go quickly come down to this misfiring and waiting for the recognition to be enabled. Actually, before we do that, oh no, let's let it to do it. Let's wait a little bit. I guess the engine light's gonna be on because of the codes that were there before. Actually, let me see if I turn the car off. I should have not done this while the live data is loaded. No, it's not going off. That's strange. No, he's definitely not misfiring anymore. He's running really, really steady. Okay, so I'm gonna actually, while he warms up a little bit and the recognition is enabled, it's gonna go to trouble codes, clear these codes quickly. That's strange. Don't tell me I'm gonna have to pick up another ignition coil. Okay, let's restart this again from fresh. Obviously it won't be trouble codes there just yet. Engine light is now off. That's gonna go to my misfiring count. Why did that number 4 come on? Not number 4, sorry, that number 1. Did I didn't clear the codes, did I? I don't even know what I've done anymore. Right, let's go back. Misfiring counter is enabled. No, not yet. So I'm gonna pause the video. I'm gonna wait for the ECU to enable the misfiring recognition, and when it is enabled I will show you and we'll see if there's any misfirings at all. There is. The misfiring recognition is enabled and everything. There's no misfirings. I'm just gonna go for a quick drive at the end of the road and come back just to make sure it drives okay. That tender load is not gonna come up with nothing stupid, and then I guess we'll be wrapping up this video. Okay, and it's driving absolutely perfect, absolutely no issues, and that's it for the video, guys. So in the end, a bad coil pack, or a bad coil, sorry. No rocket science, you don't need special tools. To be fair with you, obviously it was good to know which cylinder was misfiring. There's many other different ways to test for a misfiring, to see which cylinder would be misfiring. You can use other tools, you can use so many things you can use. You can use the scope if you want to be really that I'm not gonna say petty, but if you want to go that route, you can use the scope to test it. You can use so many ways. Anyway, if you don't have any tools, you can always start to swap coil packs. No swap coil packs. You could just start to disconnect one coil at a time, and you'd see, like we did, that when you disconnect one of them, nothing on the engine changes. So you'd see that that one was failing. So if you have no tools, there's other ways to do it. But in the end, guys, this is what the problem was. Not rocket science, nothing special on this video. Still, I do hope that there's some information here, or maybe the way I explained things, whatever, that can help someone out there. And that's the whole idea of these videos. So with no further ado, guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something, whatever. If you do still have any questions, any comments, you know exactly how it works. Just put them below. And like always, thank you for watching.